it is 7 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dave, do you have any questions on attendance?
Nope.
First, we're going to start out by welcoming Kim, Ms. Hinckley, to the district, to her first board meeting.
Kim's coming from Robbinsdale, has worked there as the instructional coach and multilingual coordinator. I said that correctly?
Yep.
Really excited about her coming with her experience in evidence-based instruction and working with social, emotional, and cultural responsive practice. Ms. Hinckley's already been in the building a lot in July, getting to know the kids, getting to know the staff, working in summer school, and hitting the ground running and doing a great job so far, so welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the board agenda? Brian?
None for me.
We have an agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Against? The motion passes 7-0. Open forum. Rules for open forum. 3 minutes per speaker. Open forum shall not take more than a total of 15 minutes. No complaints about individual staff members. All presenters will conduct their business in a manner that meets community standards for decorum. The board will not take action on items presented in an open forum. Did anybody sign it? Does anybody wish to speak in open forum? Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone want anything pulled from the consent agenda?
I had 2 changes. In the school board minutes, we had spelled one board member's name wrong. We had included Mr. Prater as still the superintendent, so we made those corrections. And I had an addition in resignations. We had an English teacher resign today, so I did add that so we can move forward with posting and filling the position.
So they've been corrected.
They've been corrected.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion passes 7-0. Next up is bills. If you have questions on the bills, please state the page number and the bill number. Does anybody have any questions on bills? Is there a motion to pay the bills? Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is reports. First is superintendent's. Brian.
Like to start with just inviting all the board members to the back to school supper, which is Monday, August 29th. I did send you all an invite if you want to sign up electronically, or if you could please let Jill, Carly, or I know by next Monday. Social hour begins at 4 o'clock. It's at Brennan Field, and the dinner and a short program to follow will begin at 5. So if you want to come, please let us know, or fill out that link that I sent you guys in your board update last week. Traditionally, also, in the early part of the school year, we've done a staff coffee, is what it's been called, where the board kind of comes in and meets with new teachers, new employees to the district. I think it's a great tradition for the new staff to get to meet you all, see you, and have some just general conversations. Wondering if we wanted to set a date in September and look to schedule that.
I think we should. But I don't. do you wanna send some dates out
I can
that
send-
work for you, Brian? And then maybe that would be easiest.
The first or second week of school, maybe the second week, let people
Yeah.
kind of catch their
Not the
breath.
first.
And okay. I will do that. I will send you guys dates this week in your update. Summer school's gone well. You can see how many breakfasts and lunches we've served. It's been very busy. It's gone very well, but a lot of kids and families coming in and getting breakfasts and lunches. We finished summer school up this week. I've attached my goals for the year to remain fiscally sound, have effective communication throughout the district, promote the development of social emotional skills in every student, utilize and continuous improvement strategies, professional development, and other collaborative efforts at all levels to ensure high academic achievement as the district priority, and then maintain productive relationships and positive relationships with all employee groups and departments. Thank you to all board members. I've met with all of you and had some great conversations on that, so thank you for the feedback on those goals as I've set those up going into the school year. I've shared with you just school district numbers as of last Thursday. I know we're gonna talk about this a little bit more in Mrs. Sculler's report, but those were the school numbers as of last Thursday, where we have 56 in Finlayson, 455 at Hinckley Elementary, and currently 456 at the high school. Empower, we usually do those registrations a little bit later this month. Those are being set, so I'll have a better Empower enrollment later in the month. That should be right around 20 to 25. And then lastly, I had just the board education, the testing piece. I know Mr. Horbach's going to talk about in his report. So I guess, was there any question on the levy part of the board education for this month? The levy will pick up a lot for the board level in September, where we'll set the initial levy and then continue to work on that into the month of December. But was there any questions on the levy piece of this report? Okay. That's what I have.
All right, does anybody have any questions regarding Brian's report? All right. Oh,
The PD meeting is moved to the 25th, not the 24th.
I will change that in here. Yep, the PD meeting has moved. It was not going to be free on the 24th.
All right, next up, high school principal report. You're up, Kim.
Good evening, everybody. I just kind of wanted to take a quick second just to kind of introduce myself. Brian kind of did a little bit for me, but I've been living in Hinckley for almost 5 years now. I'm just down, everybody asks me where, just down Highway 48 past Cloverdale. We have 40 acres, some animals, things like that. Haven't been lucky enough to have kids, so unfortunately no kids. But it's been just an awesome experience living up here, and just really happy to now get to work in the community that I live in. It's been a goal for some time now, and I'm really happy to be here. Like you said, I was coming from Robbinsdale last year. I was the multilingual coordinator, so I got to work with 2 high schools, 4 middle schools, and 9 elementary schools, doing a lot of different curriculum instruction type of work. My main focus was the EL type coordination, but got to do a lot of other things with math, with all this, with everything with curriculum. We have a kind of a big team that did a lot of stuff together. So that's kind of what I was doing right before coming here. So going from a 3-hour commute a day to a 15-minute commute a day. So quite happy about that. So feel free to ask me any questions too, personal questions later on. I'll get to kind of my report. First thing was the workshop week agenda that I have attached. Open house will be right after the 7th grade orientation from 3 to 5. And to compensate teachers for their time, they're going to be allowed to report to work a little bit late on the 1st. 7th grade orientation is Wednesday the 31st at 1. This is a really great opportunity for our 7th graders to come in and meet their teachers, go through their classes, try their lockers, kind of just get a good feel of the school. Our hiring update, things have changed since this was printed. We lost an English teacher today, so we have 1 English teacher to hire, and we're down to 4 paras. So that's good. Hopefully tomorrow night at the job fair, we'll get a few more. Some goals that I've kind of set for this school year, first and foremost is just really to get to know the staff, students and families, get into classrooms, engage with students learning, and really invest in that parent partnership and build those relationships with families. So that's kind of number 1. Also, to create that safe environment and making sure that all the handbooks are followed with consistency, making sure the cell phone thing is number one priority and use that to really inform all of my decisions. Support the mentorship and coaching of staff, especially the new staff, to be really successful with the outcomes of their students, and to reinforce our focus on staff and students being known, valued, and challenged to succeed. So those are kind of my goals to start the school year. The number 6 is just some events, some things happening in August. And then last but not least, I wanted to introduce our high school school board members, Ari and Jordan, will be joining us this year, and I'll let them introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they're excited about for the school year.
Well, my name is Jordan Masterson. I'm excited to be a senior and get involved in fall sports. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to join the school board, so I can hope to be able to be a voice for the students in a way, and hope to share their thoughts with the school board and be heard in a way that I feel like past student board members haven't listened to us.
My name is Ari Williams, and I'm also excited to be a senior. There's lots of different perks and other things that come with that, but I'm really excited to be a part of the school board and collaborative effort with you guys and also students. I'm excited to gain experience in a kind of representative sort of place that will benefit me in my future, and as well as just learning and gaining that experience for college and other things like that. So I'm very excited to provide a voice, like Jordan kind of stole my thing. But I'm excited to provide a voice to younger students and just let them air anything that they would like to change about our school. We are kind of like a vice for them as well.
Any questions for me?
No questions? All right, well, again, welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome Ari and Jordan. We will move on to Bonnie.
All right, well, my workshop schedule and welcome back letter are both attached in there. We will also have open house on that 31st. We are staying with our scheduled open houses, which staff really likes because it really commits 15 minutes of time for each individual student with their teacher. I've explained that to our new teachers coming in, and they love the idea, instead of 20 kids running at them and never get to meet them. So we're gonna stick with that. We have about 8 new teachers hired right now. I think I'm really excited about having an in-person SLP and an SLPA this year. I have moved them, I guess it's later in my report, but I have moved them into a bigger room at Hinckley Elementary, because there's going to be 2 of them, so they're in our only last classroom left, and we're gonna be able to service a couple groups at a time with our speech. Still looking for a nurse and an instructional coach. As we're moving forward, we do have the job fair coming up tomorrow night, so hopefully we get some bites there. You can see my goals there. One of my big goals is to walk right alongside the teachers as they're getting acquainted with the new Amplify curriculum, making sure that's delivered with fidelity, providing professional development and support as they're learning the new curriculum. We have a couple teachers piloting a new math program, some on top of the new Amplify. There's one of them. So really providing that support for them as well, because we do need to up our game in our math department as well, but always trying to get our new staff acquainted with Hinckley Elementary. We were at Data Facilitator Day down at Scred, and looking at number 3 for our early release days. I think we have want to become data driven and let that data drive our instruction, and I think we have some really good plans with our data facilitation team that we developed today, using some of our PLC time really effectively, based on student work in our data. So super excited about that. Kindness Wall we're bringing back at Hinckley Elementary. A lot of comments on that last year, but I'd like to see if we can get more teachers to use that with student work up there. So we'll be pushing that a little bit more. And now enrollment. Brian talked about enrollment a little bit. We'll just jump right into Finlayson. We have 3 kindergartners. We met with the Finlayson staff. Brian and I have met a number of times. Like he said, the number is 52 without our pre-K kids. Currently, we have 3 kindergarten kids. We ran through a couple different scenarios. You can see there how we would combine them. After meeting with the Finlayson staff, I'm gonna propose that we combine K-1-2 and co-teach in there. So we'll have Mrs. Gelhart and Mrs. Steele in there, doing a lot of differentiation, but that allows those 3 kindergartners to have more social emotional learning, like I said, differentiation, small group. I guess one thing I am looking for, from you, or maybe discussion piece, is what is our number that we're looking at before we just stay status quo? August, we always know we have late enrollments. I have talked to Susie. She doesn't have anybody knocking on the door, leaving messages right now to enroll, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. We know we're going to get a couple enrollments, but what is the number you would like to see before we just leave things status quo for kindergarten?
Bonnie, do we have anyone from the Hinckley area that has volunteered to come to Finlayson?
Nobody has reached out, and I think primarily that is because, you know, we have kids that get on the bus at 6:15 already, so they're on the bus for an hour and a half before getting to Hinckley, and then to let them ride for another 20 minutes or so, especially as a 5-year-old. We haven't had anybody reach out yet.
What's the smallest number that we've had aside from this coming fall in kindergarten?
I would say maybe 6. Does that sound about right? In my time, anyway, I know if we look at 3rd and 4th grade, 3rd grade currently has 7 and 4th grade has 6, so I believe that was probably that group. You know, we always have kids move in and out as well, but I would say around that 6 is where we've.
And looking at for next year right now, if all the volunteer pre-kindergartners come, there's only 5 right now.
5 right now. And I think we'll get some more pre-K kids. We thought about combining pre-K and kindergarten. They only come 2 days a week, pre-K. And there's, you know, it's more of a play-based platform than it is in kindergarten. So we didn't think that was the best route.
Are there any negatives to the students with adding, like, having K through 2? Like, are there any, like, does that hold back the 2nd graders at all, or what does that look like?
Yeah, if we were to do that just with one teacher, I think there would be some huge
Okay,
implications to that. I think providing co-teachers in there, where Shayna and Rita are both able to divide them in. We have paras, we have Ann Ryouts, we have Kelsey Smith up here to provide more support. I don't feel it's going to only make kindergartners better, especially socially and emotionally. It's the 2nd graders that I'm a little bit concerned again, but we've already had Mrs. Ryouts working with some of the reading component, so I don't believe we're gonna pull that. We'll still have that support.
okay.
I am a little bit worried about how we deliver Amplify, because it is very grade specific. And there's a 2-hour reading block for every grade, K through 2 at least. So we'll have to be very creative in how we set up that schedule.
Okay.
Shayna, anything you wanted to talk about in regards to Heather's question?
Well, I think combining those kiddos can be very beneficial to the youngers and the olders. I actually student taught in a 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade classroom, and parents requested to have kids in the multi-age. The kids are really good at learning from each other. The olders a lot of times help the youngers and build those relationships, so I do see a lot of benefits to that. I think we'll have to work hard to make sure everybody's getting and being met where they are, but the social emotional piece will be good for everybody.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. My question isn't necessarily the class sizes, but I can't remember if we've had this conversation, Bonnie. Were we able to pull if there are kindergarteners right now in our district that are open enrolling somewhere else? Or do we just have 3 kindergartners that live in the Finlayson area to come here?
Well, I just hired a para who has a student who lives in Finlayson but goes to Willow River. So I do know that's out there. Vonda or
I can-
Jill
I
may
can
have that
check.
information.
Yeah, I can ask Vonda or Jennifer O'Plander to pull that, I think.
You know, obviously for the future, we need to do something. You know, some of the things that we discussed with the staff were recruiting, advertising, you know, selling our school a little bit more, so, you know, that's something we can definitely do, but our numbers have been declining over the last few years, so we do wanna address that. But for this year, I don't think we can do anything drastic, and it's not gonna hurt us budget-wise, because that's what we had going in.
Right.
Anybody have any questions or concerns, or, you know what, throw me a number that says, this is where we're at before we just say Rita stays with kindergarten.
Have you heard anything from the parents from kindergarten, first and second, about, for the combining of the 3 grades? Is there any parent that
We
would
haven't
like, well, I'm not
had
gonna do
that
that?
conversation with them yet. Rita did say when we chatted on Friday that they were aware that was a small group coming in, so, you know, some change could be possible.
Mhm.
Do you have a feeling, a gut reaction of how your second grade parents would?
It won't affect much, it won't affect them much, I don't see a problem.
Yeah, I think we just need to reassure them, there's going to be 2 teachers in there, we're going to co-teach, they're going to get what they need, it's not gonna be much different, other than having 2 adults to work with.
We had talked, based on this conversation, kind of what would come out of that, kind of putting that out to the public, and also kind of, hey, we still have some opportunities to, you know, keep the school as tradition and, you know, encourage more kids to enroll. So we wanted to kind of get some board feedback, and then put another message out in the newspaper, on Facebook, to both recruit and explain kind of what we're thinking, if it doesn't change, or hopefully gain some more kids at the Finlayson school.
So if you combine kindergarten, first and second, you'll have 21 kids right now.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Bonnie, do you have a number where if we get a couple more enrollment, where you wanna change it back to status quo where it has been, or, so we just know that?
I'm okay with like 6, if we were to double it, and are you in support of that as a board? Say we have 6 kids in kindergarten, small group is great. My biggest thing with, we don't have 100% attendance all the time, so a couple kids are gone and we're down to 4, you know? If we set it at 6. That's a long
Is-
day, both for the teachers and the kids.
Yeah.
And it's just not what's best for kids.
Do we as a board have to set a number that
I
can
don't
be a
think so, just
decision
some
that you
ideas
and-
for us.
That you and Shayna and Rita can,
We can have that conversation, but I guess I would want your support moving forward. If we get to that number, we can just say, instead of having to come back and have that conversation. I guess I would shoot for 6. If we could get up to 6, I would say let's stay status quo. Shanna keeps her 19, Rita keeps her 6. If you're in support of that, we can move forward with that plan and
I don't think we need board action.
No.
Bonnie can
Just-
staff her building
just kind of
as,
support.
as just, if there's any more feedback for her, I don't think it needs official school board action.
And there was 6 last year.
There was 6 at the start and we got up to 10.
Oh.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying, now we know, we assume, I shouldn't say no, we assume there's gonna be some enrollments, but
'cause
somehow
if
we're not
she-
reaching them yet.
if first and second were to get an influx of 5,
Right.
and she gets up to 6, well, she might still need to combine.
Yeah, and I think that's okay, because we'll still have that co-teacher
Right.
there, I mean, that just gets up to a normal class size in Hinckley. Both 2 teachers, very, very doable.
So are we gonna advertise right now or leading up to the start of school that we're still low on numbers?
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Both of those teachers are comfortable working together, right? Shayna and Rita?
Yeah,
for
we're
the
good.
yeah, we had a really great conversation on Friday with them, and all the teachers up here extremely flexible, just
Yep.
wanting to do what's best for the kids and keep the school going, so. All right, moving on from there, my next step is action items. You all have access to the updated handbooks. Any questions on those? If not, just an action item to get those approved. Really the big change in the student parent handbook, I just put all the discipline together. It was all spread out. I put some verbiage in there in regards to vaping. First offense is 2-day suspension, then it's a 5-day suspension, then it's a 20-day, and then we'd go for 45-day expulsion, which was already in there. Other than that, it's just updating staff and personnel.
Is there just one item you have for
Yep,
action
just the
item, right,
handbooks,
Bonnie?
that's the only action item.
Okay, so Bonnie's looking for a motion then to pass, all 4 of her handbooks, the staff handbook, the student parent handbook, the, HES substitute handbook, and the FES substitute handbook. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Alright, and then the last thing that I will talk about is, we have a reading core update. Last year we had 3 in grades K through 3 and 1 in pre-K, and this year we're adding a 4th in K through 3, and we're also adding a math core, which is kind of in the developmental stage in reading core, but we're also getting a math core, so very excited to bring those on, and those positions have already been filled, so. Looking forward to a great year.
Does anybody have any questions for Bonnie? Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Next up is the curriculum and testing report for Jonathan.
Good evening. We'll start with Amplify, our new ELA curriculum. All the teachers, for sure, K through 5 will have a full day of implementation training on Tuesday of workshop week. 6th grade will, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's half a day or a full day, but we are gonna have our 7th and 8th grade teachers, if we have one by then, join that group, just so they know what is out there, what our 6th graders are coming up with, and what potential, if we were to go further with our alignment vertically, if that would work for them. So we're gonna have them join. Then during the school year, each of those grade levels, well, there'll be a K2 band, a 3-5 band, and a 6th grade band. They'll have a day of coaching, where they'll have people come in from Amplify and observe and then work with the teachers and to see just how things are going, and it'll be a day for us to kind of refresh and ask questions and just get some pointers. The goal would be for future PD/coaching in future years as well. So we've always said that if we're gonna adopt something, we wanna continue the PD so that the learning and the training doesn't stop. Because we know after the first year, we're gonna have a ton of questions. And typically when you have a new curriculum, the first couple of years are a little rougher, just as people are getting to know the waters and adjusting to what has been and what is now. So that's kind of where we're at with our ELA. Our middle school science, 6th and 7th, will have a half day of PD, and that's set up during new teacher training, because most of our teachers that are gonna teach those materials are new teachers. So we set it up for their first day, it's a half a day. And then we'll continue with PD with them as needed. Hinckley Elementary and the high school are both implementing Be Good People. Apparently it's 2 E's today, but it's, Be Good People is their SEL curriculum. And we're super excited about that. Bonnie has a team going, Kim has a team going, and especially at the high school, that team is gonna be doing most of the PD with their peers. So it's not gonna be coming from the outside. They will be supported by Nick Van Oss, who is the main creator of the curriculum. So he's from Scred, so he's been supporting and will continue to support our main team for that. And from what we've seen, there's gonna be lots of good things. A lot of districts around here are going to that, especially with Scred. as it is a free resource, but it has also been built over time, and very in-depth. And it's also very flexible for what we need, so it's not cookie cutter. We can take different things for different years, we can use different things for different groups, so there's already a schedule, I believe, for junior high and a separate schedule for the high school. So they're really focusing in on all the needs of our different learners. September 30th, we'll active shooter training for all certified staff. And Mr. Masterson and myself are going to invite the non-certified staff in for half a day, since they had a full day added to their schedule for training. So they'll be asked to come in if they would like, that's optional for them. But it'll be in the morning, we'll have that with Pine County. In the afternoon, we'll have Seizure Smart again, will come in for an hour. Let's see. Our 6th and through 11th grade math teachers have been putting in a lot of time this summer. Some of them haven't done their training yet, but a couple of them have, and they've had 3 days of full training on a curriculum that they're going to be just looking at for next year and working with their students. And they've also been doing modules, so some of those teachers have put in up to 40 hours. So that training was all free. So the PD with the curriculum that they've been looking at is free. It just comes, you just have to get to the training, or in this case, we went the virtual route this year just because it's not something that we're adopting, it's just something we're looking at. So a lot of positive feedback just from the couple that have already taken that and they're blown away by the feedback and the PD that they're getting. Again, Bonnie kind of mentioned we have a couple people looking at some math stuff. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get their PD set up for this summer, but it will be the second Wednesday of the school year. So they'll have half a day in the afternoon that they'll be working with that company specifically to make sure that as they implement their pilot that they're on the right direction. And then our big one is the MTSS grant that we got from the state of Minnesota, almost $300,000 for the next 2 years. Joel Hogberg, who was teaching mostly 7th grade math, is our MTSS coordinator. He's dove into his new position and was on another call today with Mr. Masterson and myself, meeting with the Department of Education and we're starting to build a district-wide plan. And the goals right now that we're focusing on are SEL instruction, Tier 1 instruction for math, and we're also focusing on Tier 1 instruction, so all of our students for reading. So those right now are our goals. They may change a little bit, and that will all depend a little bit on what staffing we have, is kind of what we came up with the MDE lady today. And then our PLC time on Wednesdays is going to be focused a lot on implementing ELA and MTSS and SEL at the elementary. The high school, again, will be a lot of SEL and MTSS. And Kim and myself will go over a little more. We'll focus on some goals that she has, and that will drive our Wednesdays as well. But bringing a lot of that, as Bonnie said today, we went to the Data Institute, bringing a lot of data into Wednesdays, into how do we use the data that we're getting from our students to best teach them. And I guess the biggest thing on there is coaches this year will be expected to be at PLCs till 3:30, for sure at HES and in the high school. The assessment calendar is there, it's linked in. This has to be, per MDE, has to be linked into our main webpage. It just needs to be updated for the date, and I think the ACT and maybe the ASVAB from the high school, we need to update those dates. Other than that, that's all ready to go. MCA results are out to school personnel. Those will be made public, I think it's August 25th is the exact date, but that'll be a report. I don't remember if that's September or October when I come back for that report.
I think it's October.
Okay. Any questions for me?
No questions for Jonathan? Thank you, Jonathan. Next up is communications. Ryan,
We have any?
we have no communications. Oh, I forgot, board committees. I know I do every month. Does anybody have any board committee reports they wanna talk about? No facilities?
This week.
Okay. So, we N to communications?
There
None?
is none.
Okay. Budget calendar,
You can kind of see what the actions are here in August. We're really watching enrollment, registration, and drops. Jennifer Olander, who oversees our MARS and EdFi, is reporting that, letting the principals know and myself know as we plan sections and staffing. As I stated in my report, in the district office level, we'll begin working at the levy, on the levy, and getting that ready for you all to start looking at in September. We'll look at, what late resignations are or hires, things like that. As you know, we had a English change today, and then we're really gonna push and get those free and reduced funding apps out to the community and to the public, so we can start getting those in to help the free and reduced application and lunch prices for those families. There's no board action this month, just kind of updating on kind of the big things we're looking at from the budget standpoint.
moving along, we have our policy review schedule.
So we had approved this in July, and then as I've gotten more in depth in looking at policies and getting some more feedback from MSBA, it just brought back a change in the schedule, how we're gonna look at these based on new laws that came out this summer after the board had approved in July, and just making sure that we have the ones that are mandated to renew every year up on our schedule. So just cleaning up our schedule to make sure we're hitting MSBA's new recommendations, and we're hitting the ones that we have to yearly hit, no matter what the topic is that we want to talk about. There are certain policies we have to do every year. So this is just cleaning that up.
Is there any questions for Brian regarding the policy review schedule? Is there a motion to accept the policy review schedule?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is Jaguar Pride.
So those of you who have the electronic version, we did update some more names since this went public. For the summer school staff, we added Bo Whalen and Brandon Greenwald, as well as the bus drivers. Summer school's gone very smoothly so far. We have 3 days left, so we wanted to make sure we included everyone in that. Also today, got an email from a staff member wanting to recognize Bill Tevet for building and installing gates and fencing at the school garden, and Richard McNutt for donating sidewalk chalk to the HES students.
Right.
Brian, should we add Julie Nelson on to that summer school list, as she's helped, like, make sure lunches are,
I will add her again.
yeah, Julie or Ann or Vonda, or both.
Both.
Thank you.
Oops. I'm gonna spell, you're all watching my spelling. Okay, thank you, Bonnie.
Anybody else? Next up is our Indian education policy.
This is one we renew every August. It's an important policy, as much of the funding and programming is based on staying current with all of our equal opportunity policies. No changes recommended. It was last modified in August of 2015 based on a federal audit of our policy and procedures.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian regarding policy number 103? Is there a motion to accept the Indian education policy 103?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the bus driver syllabus.
So as you could see, what I had sent, highlighted in red is what Sarah is recommending to take out. Highlighted in yellow are new additions. It did make a change today to the electronic version. We had found that masks were still in there, so I quickly, after hearing that, struck that from the handbook, as masks are not required on our district transportation this year. So that was an addition from when it was sent out Friday.
Is there any questions for Brian regarding the bus driver syllabus? Is there a motion to accept the bus driver syllabus?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is conflict of interest.
So this is one of the policies that MSBA is recommending, put in place due to board members being eligible to earn more money than in years past. In the past, it was $8,000. Now school board members can earn, in addition to their school board compensation, $20,000. The state put this in place because districts were hurting for substitutes, bus drivers, you name it, so it's giving school board members the opportunity to potentially earn more money in the school district. So I'd like to see approval for this policy.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the conflict of interest? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is our drug and alcohol testing policy.
So 2 parts on this. We have this policy, we call it 709. 416 is the MSBA model. So if the board approves that, I'd like to change our 709 to match the state MSBA as 416. The reason bringing this to the board now is this new law incorporates the cannabis part of the law, and MSBA is recommending having a policy to include that as part of how we work with our bus drivers. This would only be for those who have a CDL license. Those who have a type 3, we may do something just locally district procedure. The clearinghouse piece only is for the CDL drivers.
Does anybody have any questions? Is there a motion to accept the drug and alcohol testing policy with the change of going from 709 to 416?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? The motion passes 7-0. Next up is the internet use and safety policy.
Another new law change that came with this, in July, the state enacted a law for preschool kids and kindergarten kids regarding screen time. Basically, they can't just have free screen time, it needs to be structured and monitored. So recommend approving the change. We have policy 524 in our handbooks. We don't have it listed on our website, so I'd like to have a formal policy, which will be matched in the handbooks, with the new addition to the law of the screen time for pre-K and kindergarten kids.
Is there any questions regarding the internet use and safety policy? And I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And it looks like the last policy
Lots of policies, sorry.
is the 3 first readings.
Yep, just first read on the family medical leave policy, school district system accountability, and workload limits for certain special education teachers. We are following these, just MSB is recommending we have policy on these, so just any feedback initially?
And these we will be action item next month.
The board would approve them in September.
Any questions for Brian tonight? All right, we will move on to insurance.
Okay, 3 different pieces of insurance. First one is our life insurance with Madison National. Recommend continue with that. You can see there's a little bit of a savings, the rates did go down. So on a $50,000 policy, the savings would go from $72 to $69. Moving on to number 2, also recommend renewal of the group long-term disability policy. You can see there's a little savings there. So for not a lot, but the rates are going down. For a staff member earning roughly $40,000, the savings is about $8.80. You can see the rates went down just a little bit. The third one is Delta Dental Plan. So my recommendation would be approving option 1, a 12-month rate, which did have a slight increase of 1%. The rationale of option 1 is Delta Dental, when they're working with Joanne, feels that as they're getting part of this national insurance service, rates may come down again after a year, so they didn't advise us getting into the 24-month rate, as they think the rates will come down, and for sure not go up to the 6%, which if you approved option 2 tonight, it would increase 6%. So recommend option 1 for that, a 12-month rate increase of 1%, and look at the Delta Dental piece again in a year from now. So I look for approval on all 3 of those.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian? Is there a motion to accept the group insurance?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up on our agenda is the support staff handbook.
So we have the completed support staff handbook. You can see in that handbook the highlighted the changes. We did some reordering, some cleanup. The school board has already approved the salary pieces, both in July and in June, so those pieces have already been approved. But the rest of the proposed changes are what have come out of negotiations and just some general cleanup the district office made to this handbook.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the support staff handbook? Is there a motion to accept the support staff handbook?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is mental health support for staff.
So I'm recommending that the district continues to use Jerry LaFave as a mental health resource for staff. There are some benefits of having this for the staff where they wouldn't have to take time off work. They could go during their prep, during their lunch period. Jerry also works with Hinckley Elementary students on some anti-bullying and things like that. The rate that had been set is there, $640 a week for the school year of 38 weeks, so a potential of $24,320. This would come out of our COVID funds. We are looking into both, just even today, again, the federal government sent out an email that they are looking at grants to help with mental health support, so there could be some grant opportunities. We are beginning to research that. We haven't seen all that, but this would be paid for out of our COVID funds, and I believe it would benefit both our staff and our students to continue this for this school year.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian regarding the mental health support for staff?
Brian, what would be the minimum that you would get charged by Jerry if he did not have any staffers seeking counseling? He was just working with the students.
I would have to look back on that. Ms. Fuller, do you know how many times he worked with students?
It was late in the year when he was getting it set up, so we didn't have a whole lot of teachers who jumped on that.
I know he has not charged us so far with what he's worked from about March to now, this rate. It's been closer to $400 or even less. We have not gotten to this initial rate that he and Mr. Prater had talked about back in March.
So it's basically billed on the more volume he gets, the higher the monthly, or the higher the weekly charges will be then?
Yeah, but we would cap it at the $640.
Okay. I guess I wish he could be more just focused on the students, because we are giving our staff medical insurance, which does have, from what I understand, mental health benefits. And if he could just be more laser focused on helping our children that need help, I would be in favor of that, but I just have a hard time spending money that could be used to pay any bill virtually, from what I understand, when the staff does have medical benefits.
If the staff goes outside to get help, they either have to take probably a day off or leave early or something.
Likely they would have to take some time off depending on where their provider would be. That would be the one benefit. The biggest benefit I would see for the staff is it's right there. They could go during their prep, during their lunch break, or even right before, right after school, especially with subs being in the state that they were at the end of last year. And having that known reputation of Jerry, I think, is a benefit, in addition to staff not having to take time off work.
I think that's one of the reasons why we went that route with Jerry last year, is because we were in such a sub shortage. And any, I guess, any deep research that you would look at says like, we need to support our staff, cause this COVID was just as tough on them as it was on the kids. So we wanted to find ways to support our staff in that, but I see where you're coming from, Toby, like, we do have insurance, and I think, like I said, the biggest thing was the sub shortage and finding a way to support our
I think sometimes also if someone's having an issue, you can so-called nip it in the bud, rather than becomes an issue and then they're, gone for days and things like that.
One question I have too, if they're gonna use lunch or their prep period for a counseling session, are they gonna be in a right state of mind to go back the next minute to engage with their students? I mean, maybe they become emotional, maybe they'd rather just, but then again, I understand they could use it after school as well. Is that right?
That is right, yeah.
Okay.
Or
I
before.
believe he set his hours from 8 to 4, it might have varied based on the day, but he was there some days starting as early as 7:30, 8, and stayed till 4. So I think he can build his schedule around that, so if some of the staff would wanna come before or after school, I think he can build his schedule that way.
Was there a lot of, you said there was quite a bit of usage in the school year?
During the school year, I think he got up to 4 staff. I guess Ms. Skillard would be the expert how many students he saw at Hinckley Elementary. This summer, he reported he's continued to see 2 staff with some other staff dropping in, kind of unscheduled, just dropping in. And so far, at least 2, and this was a month ago, have said, yep, we would like to see that continue into the school year.
So at least 2 staffers did drop in?
Correct.
I would say he only got into 2 classrooms, and we're on the docket to meet, but I don't wanna meet with him and set something up until I have the approval to do so. Like I said, it was late in the year. Anytime we offer some social emotional supports to our staff, they generally take it for their classroom. If we have an expert like Jerry who wants to come in, we're going to have teachers who take that opportunity. He's the expert in the field, so.
And they can utilize his services for reasons other than school-related stressors, is that right?
Our staff,
Yeah, using,
sure, anything that is, I don't know what they talk about in there, but I would assume anything that's stressing them out, anything that is affecting them to be able to do their job efficiently.
okay.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to
I'll
accept?
make that one.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
We'll just do a roll call, cause I think it's easiest. Dave, when
Yes.
you're ready, let me know.
Oh. I'm ready.
Leo,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Toby,
No.
Dave,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Jody, yes. Motion passes 6-1. The next item on the agenda is the closed session. The open meeting law, Minnesota statute, section 13D.05, subdivision 3B, allows the school board to close a meeting pursuant to the attorney-client privilege. The purpose of the closed session is for the school board to meet with the school district's attorney to discuss the status of a pending legal claim against the district. Pursuant to the law that I have stated, I will now hereby entertain a motion that the meeting be closed. So there is a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We will go into closed session.